So how do you think the film industry and the various advertisements are impacting the youngsters?
They are impacting the youngsters, and that is why they are paid. One of the cinema star, he got 20 crore for use but doing a pan masala advertisement. Now, if he has got 20 crore, he must have made a profit of at least 20 times more for the company. And imagine, by getting 20 crore, he is selling the product worth 400 crore, and how many lives would have been lost? And our Fit India champion, one of the leading Bollywood actor who was the mascot for the Fit India, and the one who was advertising for polio, they're all advertisement for pan masala. If advertisement for polio led to success because of him, why don't we believe that his advertisement of pan masala will also lead to epidemic? And like दो बूंद जिंदगी के and यहाँ पे एक पैकेट मौत का.
And then we had such liners as "Live life king size" or "The smoke of the god" and "The man with a smooth edge." So many tempting, liners that the advertisement companies have come up with. Mark Twain, the American writer, said, "Giving up smoking is the easiest thing in the world. I know because I've done it thousands of times." Why do you think quitting smoking is so difficult?
The reason is that the biochemical basis of addiction, if you read more and more, you realize that it is much more addictive than heroin, Mandrax, and all those drugs which are forbidden. Now, what happens that once you are wired, currently there is nothing in the world can help you quit tobacco. And that is why the mantra is, let us not initiate it, because once initiated, there is nothing in the world can make you quit tobacco. And this is what saddens me, that in 2023, this information is there in the public domain that quitting is so hard. And yet, the leading cigarette companies are making windfall profits by selling the products, which by their own admission, with having a warning and it kills and all that. That means as a manufacturer, I know that my product does not help in any good way to the society. And the only thing it does is killing. And yet I want to make profit out of it.
That's what we say. The tobacco company kills the best of its consumers.
Yes.
So how effective are our de-addiction protocols and drugs that we promote?
To be very frank with you, if de-addiction protocols were safe and they were effective and they were easily acceptable and accessible, tobacco would have been a history by now. 96% of the people know tobacco is harmful. Nearly 100% of them, they want to quit tobacco. Nobody enjoys having tobacco. They always have a regret while using tobacco. And if withdrawal symptom we want to alleviate, yes, nicotine tablets are available. Unfortunately, what happens that these nicotine tablets or whatever, they help you withdrawal symptom alleviation for a short period of time. But most people, they relapse after 6 months to 1 year. And the reason is that the whole dopamine pathway, the reward pathway in the brain, it keeps looking for nicotine as a chemical whenever there is an opportunity. So a lot of people quit tobacco, they go abroad, they are sitting in a nice restaurant in Switzerland, then there is a nice view outside, they get a wine in their hand and suddenly they get the urge. And once you get that urge and you start your cigarette, after 6 months, you are back to the square. And that is why best cessation center in the world, their 6 months quitting rate is not more than 10%.
So there are many tobacco cessation centers, as you just mentioned. So do we advise our people to follow up with these centers, or?
So tobacco cessation centers are the single most effective way of countering the epidemic to whoever it helps. And certainly This is one service that as a healthcare provider we must give, to counsel people to make a choice whether they want to leave tobacco. Now, in India, 28 crore people are using tobacco. And if 10% also are able to quit tobacco, we are talking about 2.8 crore people, which is a huge gain by itself.
Right. So, youngsters now, in the process of quitting, there's a lot of promotion of e-cigarettes, and you find vaping has lately become a fashion. So, how do you think this is an effective measure?
See, the e-cigarettes, by their admission, it is considered by their admission by the tobacco industry. So
Mhm.
first, let me tell you that e-cigarette is a product of tobacco company. And if someone is going to believe in tobacco company for their science and whatever they claim, will be fools. As I told you in the beginning, that our ancestors made a mistake and we are regretting now. We should not make a mistake again by introducing e-cigarette and future generation to regret about our mistake. Now, e-cigarette is basically a refined tobacco where all
Mhm.
the chemicals, harmful chemicals, carcinogens are removed, and what remains is a pure nicotine. Now, as I told you, pure nicotine by law in India comes under the poisonous drugs category. Now, why do we want to sell poison again as a safe form when we know that less harm does not mean no harm? It is like
Correct.
jumping from 10th floor versus 6th floor.
Correct. So, but in the packets, we have a lot of health warnings. Initially, it started with small warning like it's injurious to health, and then we brought in illustrations. Now we have pictures of patients who are suffering because of the tobacco consumption. Do you think it has really impacted?
Yes. So the Global Adult Tobacco Survey did the analysis of this in 2016 when these warnings had come. And these are the warnings which were proposed by Tata Hospital and accepted by the Ministry of Health. So initially, the warnings were useless. And now, as per the Global Adult Tobacco Survey, these warnings help people really consider quitting tobacco. The reason is that those are very, very discouraging, number one. Number two, we must understand it is not about awareness, it is about awakening. 96% people know, are aware that tobacco is
Mhm.
harmful, yet they are using it. The issue here is that how do we awaken them? And that is where these warnings have to be seen as something that de-glamorizes the tobacco packets itself. And when you de-glamorize tobacco packing itself, then youth initiation is less, because children who are going to use it for the first time, when they see these packets, they get alarmed. Number one.
Mhm.
Number two, we are talking about a lot of illiterate people, less literate people. For them, picture speaks thousand words. And that is the reason why I believe that pictorial warning is something, it is the most sustainable way of imparting education to the users.
Okay. But if we look at the tobacco cultivation, there are children and teens, and this age group we understand are quite vulnerable. Do you think the industry sees a market through them? And what is the likelihood of their turning into potential smokers in the future? And is this a human rights issue?
See, tobacco, whether it is a human right issue, is why we led to the Voice of Tobacco Victims campaign.
Mhm.
If tobacco had any good benefit, I would have not taken this route. The reason is tobacco is cultivated, processed, manufactured, marketed only to make profit by killing people.
Hmm.
That's a crime, and that is why it is a crime against humanity, and that is why I view it as a human right issue from the entire supply chain. You go to the BD roller's house, The BD rollers house, the young mothers are rolling BD, young children are rolling BD because of their small tender hands. They are living with tobacco heaps in their house, and you can imagine the kind of disease that these children might be having. Tobacco farmers, they have their children help them into these crops, and it is known that if you hold the crop by wet hands, the nicotine gets absorbed, and then it causes acute nicotine toxicity. If you go to the third level, the user level, all the things that are used by the children, be their stationery, be their cookies, confectionaries, chocolates, lifestyle product, the cigarette companies are making everything that a child needs, everything that a teenager needs, everything that the youth needs. Why do you think they are making stationery? They are making stationery so that they create a positive brand image amongst the children, so that when they want to smoke the first cigarette, they will look at the triangle, the famous logo that is there common to this stationery as well as the cigarette product. So this is a very, very careful plan and sinister plan for selling ice to Eskimo.
Oh. But are there environmental issues also with tobacco cultivation?
So Tapaswini, you have hit the nail on its head. If you go to the cigarette industry's website, they talk about environmental friendly, that we are very environment friendly and we look after this, the carbon credits and all that. Do you understand that for curing means burning 1 kg of tobacco, you need 8 kg of firewood. 10% of the firewood of a particular state has disappeared because they want to cure 6,000 tons of smokeless tobacco, which is for export. Imagine, A, we are clearing our forest.
Absolutely.
B, it is causing soil depletion, because what is happens that tobacco crop, when it is grown to a particular soil, then nitrogen, phosphate, calcium, it is sucked out, leached out, and that area becomes unsuitable for any future crop. The farmers, they are leaving the paddy and other cultivation because this is more remunerative and more cash. So this is causing food insecurity because of the burning of the green forest. It is causing lack of fodder to the cattle. So this entire ecosystem makes the whole tobacco cultivation very bad for the environment.
Absolutely so. But if you look at the various policies that we've made, they're not without flaws. And there's a good reason for questioning a national policy which vigorously discourages tobacco usage by its citizens while encouraging tobacco production for export. What comments do you have on this issue?
वो एक शाहरुख खान की पिक्चर थी ना, डॉन को पकड़ना मुश्किल ही नहीं नामुमकिन है, और उसके पीछे 12 मुल्कों की पुलिस लगी हुई है. So tobacco may look like a health issue because it causes so many diseases. To control tobacco, you require 12 ministries. If you are thinking of controlling the enforcement of the laws, then you need home ministry. To make children, you require education ministry. For cultivation, either it is the agriculture ministry. For cigarette tobacco, it is the commerce ministry. And then all the BD workers and all others are covered under the labor ministry. And then you have many other ministries which are looking at different components of tobacco from the entire cycle. What happens that health ministry is the smallest ministry and it may not have that much of power, but the finance ministry, which controls the whole thing, the commerce ministry, the agriculture ministry, the home ministry, for them tobacco is not so I would say interesting area to work upon. And that is why what happens that we fail in tobacco control, knowing very well that it is worth eradication, like polio eradication, tuberculosis eradication, malaria eradication. But when it comes to tobacco, we use the control because we have conceded defeat before we have started using the word eradication.